I haven't checked out this person before, but I noticed they were going up against Poppy Paw, so I had to give it a ganders. Let's see who Shelby TV is and what they can do. Well, sounds like they might be a Twitch streamer, so we'll have to maybe check them out. Maybe they got some skill. We'll have to find out, because it looks like they're up against one of the good uns. It's our Canadian dog, our Wolfsky boy. Not worrying about Wolves this time, though, because playing as a deli is, of course, Poppy Paw playing on his David Kim account. Interesting. An account that was usually used for the Abbasids. At least it's still a berry lover Civ, as he's picked the deli on Lipany. Someone that I don't feel like I actually saw Poppy Paw doing as much anymore. Usually he was saving this for things like Dry Arabia, or the other one he actually quite likes is Highview. But this is kind of a classico. This is one of the OG choices, right? The deli on this map specifically. The HRE, an interesting choice up against this, though. I don't think it's that bad of a choice. It used to be that when the HRE got picked, the deli was a great response, especially on Hill and Dale, if you guys remember. But I actually think these days are a bit different. I think the HRE has some more lethality behind them. They can actually be the aggressor in this matchup. Curious to see if Shelby opts for that. We'll have to wait a little bit. Opening. Two people instantly onto the gold. On the other side, looks like Poppy Paw did go straight away onto the berries. I think this is just the de facto way with the deli. The exception probably is Mongols. Even against the French, I think you can, because you're probably going to build spears in your comp anyway, right? Spears and mass horsemen is usually a good way. So it makes a lot of sense. But this to me is just like, it just makes so much sense with the deli, because usually the deli should be a tempo aggressor type Civ in a lot of these matchups, or should be able to feign that aggression, which allows you to get away with the berries. And you want to be on the berries, because the sheep, they don't compare, man. Like, the 0.66 food gathering rate gets buffed by 30%. That's juicy, guys. That's actually pretty incredible. That puts you up at a deer gathering rate, which is definitely better than the 0.75 on sheep. And okay, this is rigged. This is actually rigged. Bro, dude, Poppy Paw, what the? Dude, this is so rigged. He asked the dogs to give him a good seed. They've been barking at him, right? And if you Morse code it through, if you translate dog, it comes out as, this is the seed, come here, daddy. Like, look at it. It's rigged. He can grab 2 sacred sites. He can drop 1 wall here, and then 1 small wall here, and he's secured 2. And it's very, very difficult for Shelby to play into that. Another thing as well is if you play archers as Poppy Paw here, you've got all this high ground play. So you can play archers to guard both sacred sites. No easy sale point for Shelby either. Man, this is going to be rough if Shelby doesn't block this straight away. And it's unlikely that you would as well, because while some civs are willing to walk a villager out and do something like build up a wall or whatever, or build up an outpost, I think the civ that least likely wants to do that type of play is this one. It's the HRE. I think the HRE, the big tough issue for them is any villager that they pull out, it's like you've pulled almost 1.5 villagers, because of the excessive gathering rate that you're missing out on. It just hurts this civ more than any other civ. It's going to be tough. It's many things that are going to hurt you. Tower of Victory, man. It's the way. Who said it was the way? Now, I'm a flex here. I'm a flex. I'm not right about many things. But who was saying weeks ago that times are changing? The Tower of Victory be coming. Ever since the nerf to Dome of Faith, with the reduction to how big the discount is that you get, and the build speed being at 45 seconds when you could alternatively have 30 seconds, I think Tower of Victory is just better. What you're doing is you're optimizing your DPS to take early fights, and then you can come back for that healing factor that the Deli are known for later on. You know, it's no secret, especially in matchups like this against the HRE, your healing meta, it's dead. Now, that's not to say it doesn't still exist. There are still matchups where Scholar healing really is the MVP, and you really need to make the difference. But in a matchup against the HRE, you need damage, because otherwise, you're doing a Prelate versus Scholar Bash where the Prelates are just so much better, because they get produced every 20 seconds, and they cost only 100 gold. And you're talking about a Civ in the Castle Age where they're massing these Prelates that is going to have a crap ton of gold due to how much they get off the relics. So it feels like a losing battle, whereas this idea of optimizing your military force, I like. This also does mean, actually, that Men-at-Arms isn't the worst choice, as Lance is pretty good still for the Home Blades down the line, but namely the Men-at-Arms, because with this, you're going to get the Home Blades, which is an extra 3 damage, and then you'll get the extra 20% attack speed buffer on each of those Men-at-Arms. Keep in mind, you can also then go towards marching drills, which means that you can manipulate the fights to stay away from, say, a lofty line of Langsneck or maybe the heavily armored men arms of the HRE. Also means you can move quick enough to actually pinch knights, by the way. I think that's one of the biggest underrated elements of marching drills. And I see it so often. Like, people they'll have spears in mass, they'll be playing against cavalry, and they don't have forced march. If you have forced march, you can run in and grab cavalry. It's pretty insane. In fact, little top tip for people, if they find themselves in a Delhi mirror and your opponent starts building elephants, mass spears and build forced march. Or tech forced march. You will not believe how quickly you munch an elephant. You press the button, 2 to 3 seconds later, the elephant's surrounded and dead. It's so amazing. But for now, no Elefante fun time expected on either side here. Trust me, there won't be elephants. The problem with elephants here for a Delhi player is if you start building into them later on in the Castle Age, you're going to have an HRE player with the marching drills, which gives an extra 10% movement speed, able to gap close quite quickly. And of course, Tower Elephants got heavily nerfed in the HP department. They suck against melee now. So instead, I expect this to be more decided in a possibly prolonged feudal for Puppy Paw. And I think he has no other choice right now. You can see he's starting to structure to build in troops. Shelby, on the other hand, is looking to move up. HRE timing has not been interfered with whatsoever. And this is another awkward issue for Puppy Paw. Like, he can't even get Sacred Sites yet. This is actually an incredibly good time for Shelby. We're 6.5 minutes in. By 7 minutes, this is going to be complete. This is a very, very speedy Castle Age out Shelby. Meanwhile, Puppy Paw, he's still a minute away from Sanctity. By the time he gets access to Sanctity to get his hands on the Sacred Sites, Shelby is going to be teched up. And also, quickly looking to return the first relic. However, this may be a little bit too greedy. And this is exactly why usually you'll see people sacrifice an extra 20, 30 seconds off their tech timing. Shelby is teching up with 0 military. Meaning that you will probably get killed before you can pick relics up. Oh boy. I mean, Shelby attempting to break records here. Instead, just might find their bones broken. One small gap, about to be closed. The timing's actually perfect because it baits Shelby into the maximum. Unfortunate now with this position for the prelate. So that's going to be 1 prelate sacrificed. Has at least got a little bit of gold, so can prep additionals, but now needs to get into the stables. And folks, stables doesn't feel good here when you already see spears coming out. Ideally, you would have wanted him pushing a few spears to guard these locations. Problem of that is if Puppy Paw had seen it early, that would have forced him to transition to archers, and then you'd have the answer anyway. A better answer, in fact, Tower Victory, which we can now see coming out as well. Nah, I just got to give credit to Puppy Paw. He's punishing this gluttony perfectly. Remember, when you play the Delhi, you can build walls with these spears. Looks like the prelate is going to move in, but to what end? The walls are still going to go up, so you're trapped in either way. He hasn't even hit the convert. Well, Law will finally come out. He won't even get one for it, though. If he'd done that straight away, he would have got 1 spear. But instead, that's just another a wasted effort. Prelate goes down. Another one moving to the west side. Wall's already up in this area. He still can't get any of it. That's the crazy part, folks. It's not just the Sacred Sites now. When you look more, you realize what else it is. It's the double relic in choke points. This is a horrible generation for Shelby. Oh, don't mind me. That's just the sound of Shelby's economy and military dying. Although, I guess you'd have to have real military first for that to be the case. Warlord Temp coming out. It's going to be tight. Oh, no. So close. Puppy Paw gets it again. The attack speed on their spearmen actually made the difference there as well. I mean, that's kind of looking like your game, really, right? Like, Shelby doesn't have an easy way out of this now, especially considering that they've gone into Knights with just 1 relic banked. Up against Spear Mass with attack speed buff. In choke points. Any other details I need to mention? I can keep going. It sounds like I'm being a negative Nelly, but like Shelby hasn't optimized themselves to pick up relics straight away. They optimized for a quick castle age. I think there's this big confusion when you say they're going for a quick castle, that it means that they're also going to get relics. That's not the same thing. If Shelby had delayed this castle age timing by half a minute to a minute, they still would have had a respectable timing before Sacred Sites being capped, and they would have had military force out to gather these relics. Instead, they played it blind and greedy. Now they're being punished for that gluttony. You can see it. Look at the military difference. I mean, Poppy Paw is about to have more military than economy. Meanwhile, it's not even close to Shelby. 5 military? Baby levels. And now being blocked out in the deer. Oh my, oh my. Okay, Shelby's on berries. And oh no. The berries aren't even under the influence of the chapel. I mean, there's no efficiency here. This is not the HRE anymore. This is just... This is the English on berries. This... I mean, I feel like the better play is possibly Shelby having more people on wood and transitioning farms, but even then, something to consider here is Shelby has high risk association with farm transition because they optimize the Ark and Chapel location. Notice how far away they are. If Shelby brings the archers on the south side here, nothing protects this. You will be idle on your gold and your wood. Oi, oi, oi. Shelby, like you can see, these knights, it's just, you've invested, what, 1,000 resources into these 4 knights, and they do nothing. They don't really do anything. Wait, did he go 4 knights total? Maybe I'm miscounting. He's 2 knights. Oh, at least he's got 2 more coming. There we go. Yeah, so it is going to be that bad. The problem is they don't do anything. The archers make more sense. But you're still building knights in the meantime that can't fight. And probably never will be able to. It's quite the conundrum. Berries did at least get cleaned up before the troops arrived. But Shelby still has the same issue. Need food. And this is something I expect Poppy Paw to be looking for. One area for improvement for Poppy Paw. 0 scouts. 0 scouts offensively getting info right now. If he had a scout out here, and he can find where these deer are at, or where this food source gathering is at, boom, big. And the way he'd be able to find that is if he actually had a scout in the base, because he'd see that there's no farm set up. That's maybe the one upside for Shelby. This isn't an upside, though. You think this raid-in would be good. Just a few spin pushes you away. Tech up is complete. Poppy Paw, in about 2 to 3 minutes, I think he's going to be unstoppable. So Shelby is definitely on the clock. The archers, a good start at least. That's going to push Poppy Paw back, but Poppy Paw has a lot of ground to give over right now. Another issue for Shelby in this game, this deer stack isn't going to last forever. There's still an awkward transition ahead of you, but at least some breathing room. Has a very big issue with the economy right now. Floating 1,500 gold. Marketplace would do wonders for the HRE player here. Just trade that away. Get wood, get food. Those are the 2 things you need right now, because you need to get an archer ball going. Alternatively, just build mass prelates as well. I mean, when you've got this much gold, it's quite surprising that more prelates aren't being pumped. They're just so effective at this point with the current meta as it is. With the attack moves being fixed, the fact they only cost 100 gold, they take 20 seconds. You get up to 10 of these, 4 or 5 knights really go the distance. Seeing which knights are chasing down. Sacred sites have been capped in the meantime for Poppy Paw, though. And Poppy Paw, remember, behind this is just waiting for those tech ups. Veterancy is just a minute and a half away. Shelby, you begin to question mark whether enough damage has been done. I would argue it hasn't. Lancer count is increasing. You need more than this. It's a good start of what you've done in the mid there. But now you need a clear goal. I mean, the relics still aren't in the picture is one big problem I see. It gets even worse when you consider that Poppy Paw can now pick them all up. And should easily get the remaining relics. Remember this one, the north side is still walled in. And if you attempt to break through, the timing could not be worse. Think about it this way. A minute away on the tech ups. An army big enough to slay yours. And if reinforcements arrive, by the time they get here, the veterancy would be achieved for the Delhi. Crossbow switch up. Also from Shelby. Not something you see often. It feels like you'd be better served going into spears and Langsneck with all that extra gold. Langsneck wouldn't be the worst call, actually, with a half an army of spears as well. But understandably, when you're up against archers, you get very stubborn about the idea of it. Would at least like to see a blacksmith, though. Looks like that's finally come out. And the marching drills, I believe, are being researched. No. Another conundrum. You've got this kind of discombobulated army with knights that move very fast and everything else doesn't. So it's very difficult to kind of conjoin these two. I'm getting worried about the food stance. Like, Shelby is about to run out. You got about, what, 500 food left down here? That's not going to go far. Farms are going to be required, and that still hasn't been started yet. That being said, Shelby is now flooding a lot of wood, so it looks like the transition is coming the next minute or so. Meantime, Clash up near the sacred site. Try for the decap. Did get it in time, but is going to cost you probably the entire army. You see Puppy Paw looking for the surround. Archers get forced to the back of the shuffle, and that's going to be a run away from Shelby. Good fight from Puppy Paw. Should be able to push forward from this. And Shelby's only way out is those Langstick I mentioned. However, when I mentioned them, it was on the basis that you had a composition going with it, not just Langstick alone. And you just threw away your army. So, why is that so much of a difference, you might ask? What's baiting the attention? Like, what's stopping all these archers from now just insta-killing each Langstick? I don't think you build them quick enough either. 22 seconds to wait out of 2 Raxes. It's going to get very tumultuous. Farms. We talked about the transition and the timing. Like, this is the other thing. If Shelby took that fight on the north side and it pulled towards Puppy Paw's base, you cover this weak point. But now you've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Things are going to begin to stagnate from here. Diving will begin because he sees the farms being set up. Archers can target down the few Langstick you've got. Should look to target them out before they get a chance to take out the Archer Ball. Recharge is good from Puppy Paw. That's going to wipe out the one unit that Shelby can maybe recover with. And that's going to be it. 3 Sacred Sites capped. Deer are drying up on the backside. Farm transition has been spotted and snitched upon. And Shelby has nothing to defend with. GG's going to get called. A rough map, but a rough way to play it as well. Oh, man, I wish this cough would go away. Yeah, looking back, this was definitely a rough map. There's no denying that. But I think the bigger issues come from the way that Shelby played the map. Rushing Castle is tough without any units to defend. You need to justify it, or you need to wait to send your prelates out. Otherwise, you're just sacrificing economy for nothing. The other detail I see in this game that really mattered is that there was no gradual farm transition. I actually prefer the gradual farm transition we've seen more often out of high-level HRE players, where they set up one farm, they set up another, and set up another. It slowly allows you to reach a point where you don't have to worry about pocket ecos. HRE is not a civ that pocket ecos well, especially if they can't have mid-map control. And the way that they tend to build knights at the beginning of Castle Age is not about dominant mid-map control. It's more about raiding. It's not about, well, I should put it the other way. It's not about defensive map control, right? It's not like I've extended out to all these different pocket ecos and I'm farming them. It's more like I have these knights to target relics to secure and then dive into my opponent's base with. This is the difference. When you have to play like this, when you start to play berries, when you have to try to go for deer twice over, you are exposing an element of the HRE that typically isn't exposed. And you're also doing it at a point where it isn't efficient. If you're waiting until longer in the game and you have additional prelates, it's a little bit different because you can maybe say better risk reward because you've got the gathering rates increased there, but you didn't have that until later on. And by the time you did, it wasn't for free. I think, if I recall correctly, in that southern corner, the free deer patch didn't even have a prelate there, so that wasn't even being buffed up. Just issues like this, they compound the problem. And also, another reason why the HRE typically doesn't want to play off of these finite resources too much is that they gather too fast. You know, if you do have a prelate on these deer, they're going to be gone quickly. So you're still going to have to make that awkward transition down the line. You have an initial influx of food, but the question mark is then, what do you do with that food? Do you use it to convert to a farm setup? Because now you can pull more people towards wood? Or do you go for an all-in type play? Well, most HRE players will go for the wood transition into farms. But Puppy Paw had a great read on this. It's not to say it was a perfect play. I think one area for improvement I definitely would highlight here is if Puppy Paw had a scout earlier on, he definitely knows where this food's going on. He can shut this down and end this game probably 2 or 3 minutes sooner. But at the same time, I think Puppy Paw has a feel for what's going on. And he feels that even if the farm transition is underway, he can still catch his opponent off guard. And in the meantime, what Puppy Paw is doing is instead of optimizing for a 15 to 18 minute finish, he's absorbing all these relics in the Sacred Site gold so that he has the late game on his side, which is definitely a safer play.